there. You're beautiful. Hey, we got a new guest. So,
Yeah.
hey everyone, welcome to Political No Brainer, where friends get together and talk about news, politics, current events, and conspiracy theories, possibly, and much, much more. I'm excited to welcome some great friends. Well, Beth and I talked last week, or just 3 days ago, right? And then now Charlie's back. We haven't really done anything together in like 20 years, right?
Yeah. At least.
Been 20 years, and we're all older, we're all better looking, and we're all healthier, and we're all happier,
I agree. I
And the
agree.
world is perfect. The
and the
end. There
world
you
is a
go.
beautiful thing. It's an amazing place that we're all
It was a
just
short
waiting to
episode.
see what will tomorrow bring. So, so what's going on, guys? Everybody doing okay?
Yeah. Interesting times, huh?
Yeah. Let's
A
delve right
lot
in.
going on.
Let's delve right into everything we could possibly think of, and I'm sure that'll keep us going for the next 4 years. Imagine Beth pointed out to me what last time we talked. Meals on Wheels has had its funding cut off. So,
Yeah.
and I was just thinking out loud when she just mentioned that to me. I try to think of myself as a current events wonk, and then I'm like, what? And all this turmoil, and I'm like, there are literally people with dementia who will not know that those meals are no longer showing up. There's people in dire straits, and I've literally actually didn't help at Meals on Wheels, but I knew a Meals on Wheels kitchen right here where I live in downtown Claremont. I saw the volunteers show up prepping food. They're going to show up to a kitchen without food.
Yeah.
And even if this is an illegal action, even if the president does not have a right to terminate the legislator voted on this funding. Legislation voted on this funding. Even the president doesn't have the legal right to terminate this funding, as he has done. When these volunteers show up enough days without a single drop of food in the fridge, without any funding, possibly without any electric anytime soon, I'm not real familiar with all this what's going on with these particular locations, but this program is going to be decimated. It's going to be
Sure.
and and people are going to die. And
We're back to the cruelty is the purpose, right? I mean, it's interesting, especially in the first. Now, it's only been what 10 days of this administration
10 days.
that you see two different forces colliding right there with the funding freeze because clearly Project 25 or 125, whatever the hell it is,
Yeah.
clearly was very well planned in advance. That flurry of executive orders that they just kept putting in front of them. I mean, this has been designed for years.
Absolutely.
So there's that design going in. At the same time, it's still being, the head of it is Donald Trump. So you're going to have completely unplanned events that are just, his shock and awe theory there, him and Steve Bannon, where you're going to do things like this funding freeze made no sense, had no direction. No one really knew what they were doing. There was no planning to it. They backtracked in a few days, and all it did was hurt, the most vulnerable people, like you're talking about in Meals on Wheels programs. It was just completely unneeded, accomplished nothing.
Hmm.
But in their opinion, it was just another showing of we're in charge now. We're going to do whatever we want. We're not going to go by any type of guardrails that history has provided from previous administrations, and that's the point of it. And I think we saw the same thing last time with these tariffs. I mean, there's absolutely no real plan on this other than to show that we can push our closest allies around. And the effects of this won't be felt probably for about 6 weeks, I would guess. But they're
Hmm.
going to be
Oh, it's
pretty.
going to be
Yeah.
horrible. But in 6 weeks, things are going to be horrible. This has been, like you said, this is a president who said, I don't know anything, a candidate for president. Said, I don't know anything about Project 2525. I don't know anything about the F schedule. And then, like you point out, this litigation is so enormous, is so voluminous, is so well planned out to hit his desk on day one. You're talking about years and years.
Oh yeah.
And this dates back from since Roosevelt, when Republicans have set in their mind that we are bound and determined to turn the New Deal into the screw deal, and they have been doing this, and now they got a guy that'll do their heavy lifting because he has no shame, he
Oh,
has no decency, he has no qualifications to be president, and he's the guy that's going to do the heavy lifting because he fancies himself this dictator. He loves dictators. I mean, he literally, he shook the hand of Kim Jong Un. I mean, after they returned a beautiful college student brutally tortured to the point of coma. He was in a coma when he came
yeah.
back to America.
Well, and the chaos is what's going to come, because if you look at it, you think about the project and all the time planned. It's kind of like a football team that goes into the game, and the first couple series are completely planned out. So it's just automatic. And usually it looks pretty efficient at that point. And then as the game goes on, you got to start actually calling the plays as the game unfolds. You're going to see the same thing here. I mean, they're going to run out of what's been pre-aligned with Project 25. And then it's just going to be back to him doing whatever he feels like doing at any given point, and his personal feelings will become the driving force, of how he, governs. To whatever extent he does govern, which really isn't much.
Yeah, Beth?
I agree with Charlie. I think the whole project 2025, it was written up, it was ready to go. That's why at his desk on day one, the gentleman standing beside him was telling him, okay, this is what you're going to sign. And he'd ask, what am I signing?
And that's going to be a good one. His little comments as he says he's doing each one. What's this one? What's this one? Oh, we're withdrawing from the World Health Organization. Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's great. That's a big one. That's important. Like January 6 rioters, those cop beaters.
Oh,
yeah, that's
he's a showman.
Yeah. But he didn't. That's what I mean. He didn't write these. These were ready to go. That is, he, like Charlie said, he has his act together this time, and of no doing of himself. This was written by someone else. Yeah,
it's basically the Heritage Foundation put on paper, and designed for several years. Like I said, it's going to run out though, and it's going to get back to. So even as deplorable what's going on is already happening, it's going to get to the point where their setup is going to run out, and it's going to be back to him just going on feelings, and so to whatever extent there may have been anything accomplished by this, it will get derailed as soon as he's allowed to put his hands on it at all.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, so my feeling is the one thing they're trying to accomplish, and this is just again well, in a sense, it's actual. They're trying to save enough money to fund their next tax cut for corporate America. That's just, so when you think about the House can pass anything. Like Paul Ryan used to say, the House plays rugby and the Senate plays soccer, or some other tennis. Who knows what his analogy was? But the House plays hardball and the Senate actually has rules. So in the House there's in the Senate there's parliamentary rules. You can't pass a $2 trillion tax cut if it's going to increase the deficit by X amount of the GDP. So then they save $2 trillion. And what it is taking from the poor and giving to the rich. So you save the $2 trillion somehow, some way. People die in their apartments alone. They have dementia. They don't even realize their food isn't showing up. They don't even realize their visitors aren't showing up. Then we challenge it in court. We have some success in court, but it takes forever to go through the system. The damage is done. The organizations like Meals on Wheels are decimated. Their functionality is decimated simply from the fact that nobody got together in these facilities in 4 months that it took us to litigate. And the damage is done. Yeah. And this is, I just don't understand how many people revere this man. I don't understand. What is we're three people. None of us are politicians. Yeah. We're just concerned people about, and we're actually all functioning fine. We're living in our homes. We go home to a warm home. We go home to food in the fridge, and we're just concerned. What happened to the graciousness of America? I understand some people feel that it's been taken advantage of, and I understand the need some people feel to pull back. But this approach that people are just saying, I'm getting Instagrams, bam, yeah, and all the shit he's doing. And it's like, what are you so enthusiastic about? What and
well, the snapshot that stays in my mind and forever, really was at that church gathering the day after the inauguration, and that bishop asked him, didn't tell him to do anything, asked him to please be merciful to those people who are the most in fear and in harm's way, and asking to be merciful. And he took such offense at that. And if you look at that picture of them, they're all standing. It's got the whole family there. You got Tiffany in the middle. They have Melania, JD, and his wife, and everything. And you're looking at all of them. And Tiffany has this typical Trumpian clueless look on her face, like, what is she even talking about? What does this mean? And then you look at Melania and JD, and I see them as like both just intelligent enough to know at that moment that they had sold their souls. So their fury is all like inward, like, oh my God, I can't believe we're here. But this is a bishop asking to be merciful, and he turns it into this, where they're these horrible things that gets his legions to say about this woman for asking for mercy. It's just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is I felt like there was such hope for, like, you see how the electorate was going to get younger and younger. And I thought I had such faith that the new generation was going to be, a different group than they've turned out to be. Certainly the ones who are, influencers, in this kind of attention economy that we've become. But the young people aren't coming to save us from this.
No, they're not. But
and that's the sad thing to see, because I really had a lot of hope in the next generation to be like this open and understanding and accepting and giving group of people, and it just seems the ones who have the influence and the attention have really slid the other way, and they really embrace this whole MAGA, this MAGA thing, for whatever it is. Really about
I don't see the embracing of it, so I go back to an old point I made with a friend that asked me, how is this going to go? Because the news was saying we're not going to have election results for a year from now. And I'm like, no, we're going to have election results on day one. We're going to have a president we're going to know who the next president is on day one. And I was saying that in theory and in practice, both, if you have a Republican and a Democrat running for president, they're both going to get 220 electoral votes. Bash the electoral vote system all you want. Say it should be a popular vote thing, and then everybody will argue, well, then Democrats would have every president because California would be enough to elect every president, and this and that. So we got the electoral vote process in place. It is what it is. It's the law. It's the rule of the land. So you get to 220 each candidate. How do you get to 270 to 7 swing states? And they're like, Trump won all 7 swing states. This wasn't a resounding endorsement of MAGA. Trump won all 7 swing states with a 1.5% margin on the high end and a 1% margin on the low end. So yes, he won. And I blame this whole, again, thing on the Democratic Party just playing the game like crap.
Yeah.
Joe Biden said he's going to pass the torch, just like you said, to the younger generation. He had no business running for president again. He knew he was getting too old for the job. Not too old. Most presidents are his age, around his age, but his
no, he was losing his faculties. I mean,
he was losing his faculties fast.
Yeah.
And then he shows up for a debate, and then the White House, he shows up for a date where he's literally incoherent. And the White House says after 9 o'clock he's spent, which sent all sorts of concern. A president needs to be alert after 9 o'clock. The president needs to wake up at 3 a.m. and be alert. And after 9 o'clock, the guy's spent. I don't get this logic.
Well, also just from, and I don't know this from a medical perspective, but from my own experience, it seems that cognitive decline doesn't really happen so gradually. Like, there's usually a tipping point when someone starts losing it. It tends to go pretty quick. Like people can maintain to a certain age, and it's a different age for different people. But usually, once it kicks in, it tends to go south pretty quickly. And I think that's what we saw with him. I don't think they were completely hiding his decline for 4 years. But I think once it hit that tipping scale, probably after maybe the second year, that's when they really started covering for him. And I think even the people around him were kind of in shock at how quickly it went. And, it just got to the point where it couldn't be covered anymore. And that, that debate, I mean, I'll never forget it.
Right.
Sitting there just, the thing about that debate, to me, it was never even about what he said or didn't say. It was the quiet moments when they'd cut to him and he'd have that old man, slack jaw, mouth open, just kind of gaping while Trump, went on and on. It's like, oh my God, this is hard to watch, and this is not someone who's fit to be president anymore. And had he done what he said he was going to do, if pride hadn't kicked in, and he's a very prideful man, and he's very, very, I think he did some great things as president, but he's obviously there's a lot of issues with the Bidens, and had he done what he said he was going to do and passed the torch, and they had set up, say, Gretchen Whitmer to to be or Josh Shapiro or someone.
Josh Shapiro.
And that was another thing. Like, you talk about like trying to get too trying to get too cute. Like, not taking Shapiro as the running mate. That was a getting too cute move. Like, Tim Walz, fine. I understood what they were trying to do there, but like, Shapiro was such the obvious choice. Pennsylvania was so important, and there was no saying that picking Shapiro was going to give him Pennsylvania, but with the margins that close, if Shapiro was just going to move it a little bit, that would have been the smarter move. And well, I really liked her. I really liked Kamala as a candidate. I really did. I was kind of bummed that more people didn't take to her, but they really didn't. And I have to say, those moments that go along there, that it's hard to say, oh, one moment, one comment, but that comment on The View really did mean something, because she was working so hard not to step on his toes, but to have such an unpopular president at that point in his tenure, and for her to be asked, what would you do differently, and to say nothing. I mean, that she pretty much gave up the game right there.
Yeah.
Because the entire world was on a change candidate thing. It wasn't just, the entire world has shifted right post-COVID. And, so to think that we were going to be any different would be silly. And so, it just happened. I mean, most people, the majority of the electorate, they don't pay attention to politics. They don't pay attention to most current events, right? They live their lives, and, they watch Wheel of Fortune at 7:00. So they're going to vote on different things than people who are involved and pay attention to politics think about. I think it's a hard lesson, to understand about this country, because when you do pay attention, when you do see the severity and the consequences of elections, and it's very hard to accept people voting on different standards. The economy is always going to be the driving force. So you look at the results right now. I mean, in those first 10 days, he's done absolutely nothing to attack, the cost of living, except make it worse for these tariff actions now.
So, the thing you said about Josh Shapiro was really, really interesting. I don't know that she was really trying to be cutesy, or she was trying to be like, oh, I'm going to pick a fun coach, high school coach. As I peeled the curtain back, I think Josh Shapiro said, no, thank you. And the reason I say that is because he didn't seem flabbergasted that he wasn't picked, and we all were. He seemed okay with it. He seemed like, and he came out in full support of the ticket. Like, we were all flabbergasted when she made the announcement. And I don't think Josh Shapiro saw her as having the chance to win. And I don't think a guy who can really be the next president someday wants to be on a losing ticket his first go.
No. Well, I think that's why Whitmer didn't go in. But then why didn't he come out? Why didn't he go the Gretchen Whitmer road and just come out right at the beginning and say, listen, I'm not interested in this. I'm thinking about 2028, but I'll support the ticket. I mean, I don't know. He kind of left his name out there, which is why we were all kind of shocked. Wasn't completely shocked, because there was a lot of noise out there about her going a different direction. He just seemed, he's certainly the most polished. I think they've got, like I said, him and Whitmer I think are the best they've got, in the lineup right now going forward. But the party is in such disarray right now. I mean, they don't seem to know where they're going, what they're going to do to challenge this administration. In that respect, they've been pretty effective in these first 10 days of really like knocking down the Democratic Party in terms of any type of resistance. I mean, even with these hearings for these cabinet positions, I mean, they're really, for Hegseth to just come through, with so little resistance, it's especially even like lame duck people like Tom Tillis. I mean, this is the guy who convinced Hegseth's family to actually come out and make statements about it, thinking it would push it the other way, and the guy ends up voting for him. So
I didn't understand that either. And then they said, like you said, being the guy that's I think Tom Tillis is one of the senators that's not running again. I think right. And then they said, well, if you don't vote for Hegseth, you're going to have Elon Musk primary you, which basically means he's going to fund your opponent. Yeah. And I was like, one, I hope these guys stick to their guns. Two, we're going to have the same catastrophe. The minute Elon Musk funds an opponent, funds an opponent, it's going to be a lunatic, and we're
Yeah,
going to have the same results as we had in 2020, where the lunatics lost and we prevailed in the Senate.
yeah.
And
No,
and
no. Tillis can go to the grave knowing he has less backbone than Mitch McConnell. Well,
well,
that's something to enjoy, right?
yeah, and I mean, Mitch McConnell's not running again. I mean,
Right. But he actually voted no on heads up.
right, yeah,
he
he's
was
done, but.
he was the third.
Wow, I couldn't believe Hexet got confirmed. A guy that's never even run a Taco Bell is now running the Pentagon with 3 million employees, and his first official uh action is taking down Millie's
Yeah,
pictures, and it's like,
and
and he
his
calls him
security detail. It removes his security detail.
and removes his, so now
Yeah,
just incredible, just
yeah.
incredible.
No, and I'm going to tell you something. If and I think it's going to happen. Kash Patel, who I just missed by a few years of having possibly worked with. He was a PD down here, but that guy to be head of the FBI. I mean, it's just stunning uh, that's even a consideration, and it's probably going to happen. I think the only one really in jeopardy is Tulsi Gabbard. She may not even make it out of committee, from what I hear. So she may not even get voted on. But Kash Patel and RFK. I mean, it's just a joke, man. And
Well,
that's kind of the point, right?
I'm certain Cash Patel is going to get confirmed. I never thought Hegseth would get confirmed. And I was like, and then I saw Amy Klobuchar arguing with Cash Patel. You did say you're going to shut down the FBI's headquarters and make it a museum for the what do they call it, what do they call
The
that
deep
state?
state, the deep
Deep
state, the
state,
deep state
the
museum.
museum
Yeah.
for the deep state. And it's like, and he's arguing that point. It's like, the deep state, there may be a deep state in America. There may be an underlying agenda that we all don't know about. I personally say both parties have a vested interest in seeing there's an enormous underclass in America. But Donald Trump is not a victim. He's been convicted. There is no deep state looking for Donald Trump. He's been a corrupt businessman his whole career. Long before he was ever in politics, he was accused of rape by the woman who ultimately prevailed in the court of civil law, not the court of criminal law, but she did prevail in the court of civil law, which is where the Goldberg, the people, O.J. Simpson, where their family prevailed in the court of civil law, because the need for evidence and the need for proof is a lot less. But the fact of the matter is, it's not zero. And
No,
so,
no, it's still a preponderance of evidence. And again, I'm glad you bring that up, because anytime I hear, especially I hear these people who are like lifetime Democrats, and they're making their case of why they voted for Trump this time around. They go all these different theories on why the Democratic Party failed them. And I'm like, at the end of the day, you're talking about a self-admitted sexual predator, right? Even before the jury case, the civil case, his comments, that came out during the 2016 elections about grabbing women. I mean, that's self-admitted. You're a sexual offender, and then you're found by a jury of your peers, by preponderance of evidence, to be effectively a rapist. And these are like facts. These aren't like, this isn't the deep state. This isn't a Trump hater saying, like, that's just telling you the facts. And that's who's elected president. The type of person I used to prosecute regularly. Like, I was in sexual battery division for 2 years. Those are the type of people I was putting in prison. And you can't get around the fact that is who was elected president.
yeah,
Twice.
and there's
Twice.
right twice, and now they're trying to pass legislation that says if you can be your president for 2 terms, but if they weren't consecutive, you could be a president for the third term.
Yeah.
Literally.
Him in his mid 80s.
And the scary part is he may get reelected if they. I don't think this law will ever, because first of all, it would have to go. It's a constitutional amendment, not a law. So if it's challenged in the Supreme Court, even with 6 conservatives, they'll probably get shot down at some. It won't work.
Mm.
But I don't know, Beth. Tell us.
I think that he can pretty much do whatever he wants when he's got the House, the Senate, and everybody in his cabinet is a loyal sycophant.
And
That
effectively the Supreme Court.
exactly
Yeah, if,
in his
almost the
back
Supreme Court.
pocket.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I don't. At this point, I don't think anything is that far-fetched.
Yeah.
My only hope is that he at this moment in time he's only got one vote in the House. I mean, granted, as the cycle people he's pulled from the House to be in his cabinet will be replaced and there'll be Republicans. But even with 6 or 7 vote majority in the House, I mean, even with the common cold, if they don't show up on the floor, they can't vote. So my only hope is that's where most of his legal part of his agenda, legislative part of his agenda fails. Most of his executive orders will probably fail in the courts, but they're going to have a destructive they're going to do their destruction before we prevail in the courts. They're going to, like I said, some organizations will never come back from this. Some
Mhm.
programs will never come back from this. But yeah, he can get a lot done. I mean, and I mean, is there any hope of him getting impeached? And the answer is no, right?
No, no. And I think that kind of talk is just, it's not even productive at this point. It's ridiculous. Clearly, there's no road to impeachment being successful. Certainly, if it wasn't before, if anything, he's got more of a grip on power now. I think that things like that are a waste of time. I think, you have to gear up for what the likely scenario is going to be in 2 years, which I think is going to be a pretty cratered economy. This tariff thing is not going to go well. Trade wars never, there's no history of them ever going well. And
Mhm.
so there's a very good chance of a huge midterm change. Now, I don't know if there's possibility in the Senate, depending on who's coming up for election, but the House is always in play. And I think it'll go the other direction. They're so dysfunctional, you know, that they'll find a way to lose the House. And again, I'm not hoping for bad news. I mean, we all have our lives to live in. I want a good economy. I want to make more money. I want more security, for when I'm older. But my guess is that that's not going to be the case in a couple of years. I think, everything he's talking about doing, which he's apparently implementing already, these do not have a history of going well. And it's so funny that he talks about like the Gilded Age is like the greatest time in this country, right? The age that led us to reform in the first place, right? Getting kids out of working in factories and monopolies and all those things that we eradicated in the 30s. Like he has a desire, stated desire to get back to those days of like the robber barons, and he's got a group of people, especially young people, who are like behind him on this, which is just, it's so disheartening as an American to see it go that way. But I think the winds will change in a few years, but it's going to be a hard road till then. And certainly, going back to what you started there with, Trippy, with the programs like Meals on Wheels. I mean, these are the things that can be irrevocably damaged, even in the short term. Even if eventually this legislation is reversed, there's no putting those food back in those people's mouths. 2 years
No.
later,
And then reinstating the program.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, getting the volunteers back to show up, getting the kitchens reopened, getting them if they've really been left alone for months. I mean, you got to clean them up, you got to get them restarted. I mean, this is, and I agree with you. I thought the young people would have come to the rescue, but I also was concerned when Bernie Sanders prevailed as big as he did. I realize young people are frustrated. They're looking at a time when they may never own a home. They're looking at a time where the only thing they have going for them is their birthright, and they look at Donald Trump as a billionaire with gold toilets and yachts and crap, and they say, I want to be him. The other day I was on I-4, and I'm not knocking the guy when I tell this story, but I'm on I-4 and I see this truck, and it's literally so old and so dilapidated. Literally between the bed and the cab, it's separating, like it's going like this, and it has a Trump 2020 flag, and he's in the back of the truck. He's got a pressure washer. This is my inventory quickly. I don't see very well, but driving by him, I can see a pressure cleaner. I saw a mop bucket. I saw garden tools. I saw a wheelbarrow, which was for certain I could still see that. And I'm like, what is it you think Donald Trump's policies are going to do for you? And he wasn't a young guy. And at your age, even if you get a job pressure cleaning the bird shit off his yacht, I mean, do you have the staff to do it? Do you have the availability to get a couple more pressure cleaners to go through the whole yacht and get it done in some time frame? I mean, what are you thinking this presidency is going to do for you? And there's people that are convinced that Donald Trump is going to create this enormous economy that everybody's going to prevail, and it's not. It's only going to create more of a gap between the rich and the poor. The bigger the tax cuts haven't done a thing for me in his first administration. I never saw a reduction in or an increase in my tax return,
Oh
but
no.
corporate America is booming under these. Not booming as far as they've saved a lot of money. They've got more money to stash in the Cayman Islands from these tax cuts.
Yeah.
Well, when you ask people now, back when the first tax cuts were implemented by Trump, people thought things were going well. Their opinion was that they were making more money than ever and that those tax cuts benefited them. And they seem to forget that the tax code really hasn't changed. In 2007, Trump was the last one to change the tax code, and it really hasn't changed much since. So they were blaming the economy on Biden and not making as much money or getting back as much money on their refunds when that has nothing to do with Biden. We're still under Trump's tax cuts from 2017.
Yeah.
People, you're not going to hear them scream and shout until they are hurting.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
And
I think the Democratic Party did a very poor job. And I don't know if there was any way to do it, but if there was a way to educate the electorate in terms of inflation, that because of COVID, there was worldwide inflation. It was every advanced country was experiencing the same thing. We had the most remarkable recovery from it as compared to any other country in the world.
True.
But people don't see that, but all they see is what's directly in front of them, which was inflation, higher prices. And that's the direction people, voted in is what they see. I think that the whole thing, if there's any type of quote unquote brilliance to Trump's political, game, it's just grievance politics at its highest end, right? It's what MAGA and the Trump movement has allowed people to do is to be assholes out loud, right? All those things that they were saying to themselves that they wanted to say out loud, all the people they wanted to blame for their problems, they were told for so long that was, correctly so, in my opinion, that's not the way to go about your life, and those that you shouldn't express those feelings and blame your problems on everyone else when it's clearly not the case. But he has allowed people to do that, and it's like a drug to them. If you watch those rallies, if you watch those people at those rallies, I mean, that's what they're high on. They're high on being able to just be outwardly the worst version of themselves and to be applauded for it.
Agree.
well, that seems to be when I get these Instagrams and when I get texts, and that's what, again, they're things they wouldn't have said 8 years ago. There's things they wouldn't have shared 8 years ago. There's things they would have never openly agreed to 8 years ago. And now they're looking at the president and saying, I love this guy. He's got the right idea. He's got the right approach. Make some ignorant statement, blame somebody else for your problems. Belittle people that are better than you. I mean, he's belittled Miley. He's belittled John McCain. I mean, people that are just better than you. And I mean, that guy didn't go into. He avoided the draft with bone spurs, which is a rich man's excuse to get out of it. But yet, war heroes. Khazira Khan, a Muslim soldier in Iraq, he belittled the man's mother after he was killed in action. And his action, the reason he died is because he approached a car that they had a feeling was laden with bombs, but he felt he could speak the language and he could make a difference. And of course they detonated the bomb when he got close to the vehicle. And this is our president belittling this soldier that's family lost.
But what made it just even worse, though, really, kind of the perfect storm, is that the left played into it by, as this is going on one side, they go so far the other way, right, to the whole cancel culture thing, that it just played into their hands because it gave them proof, or it gave them like affirmation that they were right. This is what happens. That The other side is just finger wagging and shaming. And, we were right all along to just get out there and be the racists and the bigots that we really are. And no one's going to tell us no. And you had a lot of people, because of that movement on the left that went so far left, you had a lot of people who were in the center who went to the other side. They got tired of it too. And you know what? They also got tired of losing. And they see a side that plays the game so well. Again, go back to Mitch McConnell. Like what he did with the Supreme Court. I mean, they play by a completely different set of rules, right? What he did to get those two picks on there. I mean, in a million years, you can never imagine a Democrat going to those lengths. And McConnell did it without ever catching any backlash from his own party, any sense of shame on his own part. You just do anything. And, when that's what you're up against, you can't go in there fighting, the way the Democrats do. But at the same time, it's like you don't want them to you don't want to embrace the craven aspect of your other side just because they're winning. So it's a bit of a conundrum there, right?
There's a lot of conundrum now. Mitch McConnell not only saw to it that 3 Supreme Court justices were brought to the Supreme Court, he also saw 300 federal judges brought. 300 federal across the country, and that was him and actually Lindsey Graham. But here's the thing, because I have literally heard conservatives, dedicated conservatives that I love and trust and really respect their opinion at times, tell me it was Donald Trump that nominated the judges that overturned Roe versus Wade. And I was like, hang on for 1 minute. As the first conservative president after Obama, Donald Trump had one job to do with the Supreme Court, and that was bring on Amy Coney Barrett. He didn't do it his first nomination. He didn't do it his second nomination because he had some bro show configuration with these other two, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. And by some maybe even divine intervention with 90, if Ruth Bader Ginsburg lived another 90 days, there would be no Amy Coney Barrett today.
Yeah.
And so this guy not only doesn't play by any rules, Mitch McConnell doesn't play by any rules, he is not the conservative they portray him to be. He is not the Christian they portray him. He's not even.
No, it's a joke. Yeah.
Right. He's out for himself. He's an opportunist. Everything is transactional in his eyes. And still, like you said, he not only has the support of his party, he has the support of the American people. I've never seen this kind of trend before, where there's no graciousness, there's no empathy, there's no concern for. I make the point as almost a metaphor of people with dementia dying in their apartments in the next 6 weeks because of this action he took. There was this legislative issue that he was personally involved with, him and Johnson, the Speaker of the House, that eliminated funding for childhood cancer research. And this is our administration, and this is our president, and this is the people that people like 10 days and he accomplished this, 10 days and he hasn't accomplished crap except screw everybody.
Well, there's a reason why Barrett was third too, because and it's frightening to think of it in those terms, but really, like, she of that conservative majority, her and Roberts are like the best hope we have.
Oh, right, absolutely.
Because as much as I don't agree with any of her politics, and I think her religious beliefs to me are pretty kooky, I do believe she is of principle, her own principles that I don't agree with for the most part, but her own, not Donald Trump's. And I think she will do what she believes is right as a justice.
Well, she's shown that in her tenure so far.
Yeah. Whereas, like, Kavanaugh is exactly who we expected him to be, especially after that whole nomination process. I go back to the Saturday Night Live skit with what's his name?
I wish I saw that now. I hadn't heard about that.
I can't think. Matt Damon does the Kavanaugh. I mean, it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But he has a line in there, is basically like, you think I'm bad now. Wait till I get into the Supreme Court. Like, basically saying, like, once he gets through all this embarrassment, he's going to take it back out on the other side, and he really kind of has.
Well,
that's shown to be exactly who he was portrayed to be in those hearings, which is, a pretty disgusting man.
That's Clarence Thomas's 30 years. I mean, basically, he's played the revenge card straight across the board for 30 years. I mean, he is an angry man.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
the confirmation hearings just made him an angrier man. And as a child, he was an angry child, and as a grown up, he's an angry man. And the confirmation hearing, and that's his 30 years. That's his legacy to the court. Is him and Daniel Alito have just made it clear that they're going to do anything in their power to prove that they're angry conservatives. And
But which was really, the thing, and I didn't see that until maybe the last 5 years. I really did have this kind of naive belief that the people and the Supreme Court, regardless of party affiliation, that they really were um, they were so studied, and the process would lead to people who really were like the top legal minds and would act on those principles. And clearly just not the case.
no, we're way past
maybe
that.
with Thomas, I guess I really always kind of believed that in Thomas, but I didn't see that in Alito, because Alito kept it undercover until the Trump years. He wasn't vocal about his beliefs until, once again, he was given the ability to be that way because of the MAGA movement. But he was pretty quiet in his before this all came out. I mean, his opinions were always screwed, but he wasn't so outwardly biased the way he clearly is now, in his comments and his wife's comments. I mean, my goodness.
Well, I always feel like, as true as that is, they knew Daniel Alito for who he was when they nominated him. Because when they nominated Harriet Miers, and Bush actually had to pull the nomination. I mean, that's the first time anyone had to pull the nomination, and it was Lindsey Graham said, "I don't know why he didn't just nominate Daniel Alito from the beginning." I mean, they knew who he was.
Well, Alito was revenge for who was the justice they really wanted on there. I forgot. It was in the 80s. Bork. So he was basically like the consolation prize for not getting Bork on the bench. I feel like that's what it was, and it was because it was clever. He was just as wicked, but quieter. So they were able,
right.
I mean, it took 15 years or so for it to finally come out, and it took the right president for him to really show, and him being older and everything, to show his colors. And that's the other crazy thing too, is they're both, him and Thomas, are gonna retire while Trump's still around to nominate the next two. There's no doubt, right?
No,
they're not going to make the mistake that Ginsburg made.
That's true, but there's one hope. The map is different for the Senate in 2 years. There's a hope we could take the Senate back. It doesn't mean that Trump won't attempt to nominate the next justice, but it could mean that he won't be able to. Literally, if we retake the Senate, and we would have to win 4 seats at this point, which is a lot in a midterm election. Yeah. It would at least stifle him from nominating another judge.
Well, you say, if they play by McConnell's rules. I mean, it would never, we'd never even be having this conversation if McConnell hadn't done what he did, right? The idea that you're just going to take away a presidential power by not allowing him to nominate a justice because he just won't even put a vote up on the floor.
Right, he held it.
No one would ever consider that until McConnell did it, twice. And so you just hope that if by some means we are able to take the Senate, that they'll have the backbone to play by, the new rules.
Well, they better, because if they allow a hearing, that would be a slap in the face to the, I forget who's the Attorney General now. What's his name? Because he was the one they withheld the vote on.
I always want to say Gorsuch because I get their names mixed up.
Merrick Garland.
Yeah. Right. That was going to be Obama's pick. And
it was his pick, but they just withheld the vote. I never knew the vote expired. I never knew that the timeline expired. You had to have the hearing. It expired. Yeah.
And that was what? That was in 2015 or 2016. It was early 2016.
Right. Yeah. But they said it was too late in his presidency. But then Amy Coney Barrett got nominated in 60 days.
Although considering what a god awful he's been such a bad AG, I'm not sure I would have loved him on the bench anyway.
He's not the greatest, but he's certainly no. Who was the one Trump first came on board with from Georgia?
Sessions.
Sessions. That guy was a clown. And then they had God, all of Trump's attorney generals were clowns, but most of his cabinet is clown shoes. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at it's going to be the same time this time around as well.
Oh, it's going to be worse.
It actually gets people who don't believe in the positions it points people to to basically destroy the positions that they're given. You get someone who doesn't believe in climate change to be like head of the EPA or something like that. I mean, that's basically
right. Or
but Betsy DeVos is Secretary of Education. I mean,
or the Secretary of State, the Exxon guy. I mean that had to be a recommendation from Putin. What was his name? Rex Tillerson.
Rex Tillerson. Yeah.
That had to be a direct recommendation from Putin. That we out of nowhere they were talking Mitt Romney. They were talking. I mean,
to see Marco Rubio just fly through completely unopposed, even by the Democrats. It's like, I think it was like in fear of like, well, it could only get worse than this.
Right. The next one's going to be significantly worse, and now we have so Marco Rubio. So I've heard now Ron DeSantis is going to self-appoint himself to Marco Rubio's seat.
Really?
That's what I heard.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
So Marco Rubio is now the Secretary of State. He has been confirmed. In Florida, the governor appoints the interim senator until they run for re-election. And it's clear indication Ron DeSantis is talking about appointing himself to be that senator.
Oh, right.
Can he do that? I guess.
Yes. I mean, he could do anything.
Or he could just appoint his wife. She's a lot more polished than he is. She'd be a better politician.
Change the laws to make it so that they can.
He did that when he ran for president. They're like, you can't be governor and run for president. He said, I'll change the law.
So we're not going to have Senator Laura Trump?
Can you imagine
singing for us in her Tom Petty covers?
Can you imagine if that happens? That would be.
I thought it was going to happen. I thought it was like a fait accompli. I'm like, oh my God, she's going to be the senator of the state I live in. Laura Trump.
Guys, these are the freaking craziest times. I love it, but I hate it because the people are more engaged than ever before. The voter turnout is enormous, which I had this argument with somebody that said the election was stolen because of the voter turnout. The numbers were so high that there was just 10 million illegal immigrants that voted for Biden. And I said the reason the numbers were so high for voter turnout is one, the level of enthusiasm that has since risen, and mail-in voting became popular amongst COVID. And that same momentum carried through this election. I mean, I don't think Trump would have won 7 swing states if mail-in voting wasn't popular. I really think a lot of independents would have sat out the election, but instead they filled out their mail-in votes.
Well, just the idea that someone who is here illegally and in fear every moment of their life of being caught and be deported is going to choose to go to a polling location to cast their one vote.
Right.
With the possibility of being deported for that action. I mean, it's never made any sense. It's an absolute joke. There is no wide-scale voter fraud. That was proven, if nothing else, during the whole 2020 thing.
The greatest lieutenant of the Republican Party was Bill Barr, and his words, the voter election scandal, Donald Trump being stolen is bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, that was his guy. That was when he was in his deepest, darkest moments of his presidency. He brought on Bill Barr to be his attorney general. And Bill Barr said any sort of talk about voter fraud, Donald Trump being robbed of the election is bullshit. So let me be clear. As far as I'm concerned, any indication of Donald Trump being robbed of the election is bullshit. When a person that knows it all tells me that, I agree.
Yeah, but the problem is anybody who goes against Trump or disagrees with him, Republicans or MAGA, they lose faith in that person.
Right.
No longer credible. They are against Trump for whatever reason, either being fired or they have retribution towards him. So it's like even when the truth comes out, you can't get them to believe it.
No, they believe him. And there was a person that called me a sheep for not believing in Trump, and I'm like, what? You're the sheep. You're the guys following the snake oil salesman. You're the guys believing in all this crap. I understand America needs fixed. I understand completely. I feel some people's pain when they say Democrats have taken it too far. I think and I know you both may disagree, but the greatest piece of legislation ever passed in America was the Affordable Care Act. But one, the acronym's wrong. It should have been called the Available Care Act. Under
Mhm.
any circumstance, you can get care now.
Yeah.
We've re- it's simple. It's not affordable. That's the biggest argument. People say, I tried getting on Obamacare and it was $1,900 a month. But here's the thing. If you don't have any insurance, and this is a part of the law, not the actual a part of the law says if you don't have any insurance and you get diagnosed with an awful cancerous brain tumor, your rate, you first of all, you're qualified for insurance. You can get insurance, and your rate will be based on your age and your gender, not the fact that you've got a brain tumor that's going to cost $6 million to treat. You're going to get a quote that's reasonable that you can afford and go on with your treatment. So that then you've got Democrats who say, no, we need universal health care. No, we don't. We're too big a country for universal health care. We're hearing about countries that are smaller than us and people waiting 3 days for an emergency room visit. So no, we really don't need to dismantle what we have working. And that's when I see where Democrats are accused of taking things too far. We don't need every new social program they can dream up. But this movement that's going on now is just disgraceful. It's just concerning to me that really innocent people are going to die on a daily basis and go unaccounted for.
Well, the same thing happened with COVID. It didn't change their mind.
No, no, it never changed their minds. They're just
And
it's
most of
just
those, go ahead.
it's just I mean, and how does it benefit them? It was my question. How does these policies benefit them? How do they think they're going to prevail from this?
They don't pay attention. Like they have no idea. I I would guess they have no idea what's really going on, what the policies that he's implemented, how they'll affect them until they affect them in a negative stance. And then instead of it being like, oh, that was Trump's policy and that's Trump's fault, it just becomes somebody else's. This was left over from Biden or this was left over from Obama. Just the other day with the plane crash
Yep.
and then putting a funding or freeze on hiring federal employees when they're already short-staffed on ATC. That was he blamed that on DEI and
Uh,
Biden and
with
Obama. At what point? And Republicans and MAGAs are okay with it being, yeah, yeah, it's their fault. When it's your administration, it's your fault. It's your administration. You're supposed to take responsibility for it. But they're completely okay with him sideswiping his responsibilities. I think the Democrats should start playing just as nasty as the Republicans, and
they
not
have to. They
they.
have
I
to.
I agree.
They have. For a president to come out and blame things on DEI when in fact it had nothing to do with it. And what I always say about DEI, what I find interesting about DEI, I always make this point, is one of the most effective, one of the definitely the busiest militaries in the world is Israel, and they have an openly gay policy. You can literally have blue hair if you have something to bring to the table as far as national security. You're at the table with the big boys. You can sit with the big boys. You can sit with the generals and offer up and be respected and be treated like you know what's going on because you do. But you've got this president and this secretary of defense that the biggest thing they're going to do as far as national security is rid the military of gay people, take away the DEI. And it's like, and how is this going to benefit us? That's all I'm asking. I have no issue. Be gay. I love you. People say, what if your child's gay? I love you. You're my child. You're happy. I searched for peace in my life high and low for years and I didn't find it. There was lots of things I tried. But when you have peace in your life, run with it. Enjoy this life for what you have at the time you have. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if the CEO of Apple is one of the only openly gay chief executive officers in corporate America. And he's turned his company, he's taken it from essentially a small company from Steve Jobs and turned it into a $3 trillion valuation company. He's an effective CEO and he's
Are you
gay.
talking about Tim Apple?
Steve Cook, Tim Apple, Tim Cook, Tim Apple. Yeah. I mean, it's okay. Who cares? Why is this such a freaking issue in people's eyes that they're
Did you see Caitlyn Jenner had tweeted at Trump and somebody had replied like, he just passed an order for us to call you Bruce. They
And
just don't get the hypocrisy. You know what I mean? I mean, it's staring them right in the face.
right, it's like, and this is he said it, from now on there's two genders in America. Or RFK, I'm watching him in an interview, and he says, I have 6 documents from the Pentagon that if you get the flu vaccine, you're more susceptible to COVID. Or if you get the COVID vaccine, you're more susceptible to the flu. And in a million years, I'm not getting a flu vaccine or a COVID vaccine. No one's asked you to get either, RFK. Don't get them. We don't need you suing vaccine companies and shutting them down to make your point. I believe in vaccines. I got the COVID vaccine. I didn't believe in the indoctrination that Democrats insisted everybody get it, even though I think there was some value to the policy because it may have eradicated COVID quicker. But if you don't want it, I never thought people should have to get it. But to make a law that you're going to make an initiative that you're going to bankrupt vaccine companies, and this is now what people are revering. Ha ha, the vaccine companies are done for. Okay. Well, you know what? Your president is the one that signed the executive order to create the COVID vaccine, by the way,
Oh, and bragged about it too.
and bragged about it.
Warp speed. Right?
Warp speed. Yeah. I mean, you've got uh, a HHS. I don't know. Is he going to be confirmed? I don't know if he will. I don't know if he's going to be confirmed or not. I don't, I hope not, but I think he will be confirmed.
I don't know. Um, I think there's a good chance both him and Gabbard don't get confirmed. Um, I think who is the guy from Louisiana, the doctor? He seems like a pretty hard no for Republicans on RFK. Remember,
Oh,
only 3.
yeah.
So, and you can usually count on Murkowski and
Oz.
to, well, Oz will be the next nominee, of course.
Right, right.
It'll be Mehmet Oz. It'll be peddling diet pills as attorney general.
Tulsi Gabbard, the one, if she has any understanding of international affairs, of national security, it was Syria. And Assad is gone. Your one friend in the world is gone. So how do you still qualify for this job? I mean, he's been overthrown. And then people argue with me by sending Ukraine weapons to defend themselves, a sovereign nation. We're just wasting money. And so the fact of the matter is, Putin pulled all his troops out of Syria, anything worthwhile out of Syria to fight in Ukraine, and that's how Assad fell. So essentially, Zelensky's doing our heavy lifting in the Middle East too. Not only defending his own country, but he's helping us in a situation in Syria. We've gotten rid of Assad after 40 years of terror.
Well, look at what the damage Israel was able to do to Hezbollah. Right, all those years seemed like that was such a flashpoint. If that ever happened, Israel would be in such But
right,
because the way assets were moved, they were able to do that. And again, it does go back to Ukraine.
It goes right back to Ukraine. And here's the funny part is Bush and Cheney were talking about attacking Iran. How do we attack Iran? They've got bunkers. They've got nuclear bombs. And Israel, with the support of Biden sent in some naval ships to give Israel some air cover, to give Israel some additional missile shoot-down capacity. And they've now decimated Iran's ability to be a nuclear force in the world, which is now time to go back to Obama's principles of let's rein in Iran into the world fold. Yes, they sponsor terrorism around the world. Let's give them incentives not to sponsor terrorism around the world. And no, Trump's going to create some, just like he did with sending 400 illegal immigrants back to Colombia. And he said he got into a fight with the Colombian president. I'm going to start passing tariffs on to you. So here's the thing. So the guy agreed. Bring the 400. They don't have the proper paperwork. You've done everything half-assed. Bring the 400 in. Well, Obama deported over 2 million illegal immigrants based on the notion that if they were guilty of criminal activity, they don't belong here, which is a great policy. He deported 2 million people on his watch without any sort of crazy ass fanfare. This is showtime. I'm going to pass tariffs on this guy because he turned back these planes. Oh, and then I get the whams and the bams on Instagram. Bam, Colombia accepted those 400 immigrants. We're talking about 400 immigrants. Yeah. Obama deported 2 million people without getting up in the White House press room and saying, I just deported another million. I mean, just do your freaking job. You have no capabilities, but if you do have some success story, don't make it like it's the biggest thing in the world. I mean,
Yeah, well, and then immediately, that gave them the green light to do it again. And now we have this, this thing overnight with these new tariffs on Canada and Mexico and China to a lesser extent, um, with like no roadmap as to like what are you even asking them to do? Because it's just this general thing like you're not helping us secure our borders enough, so we're going to slap these tariffs on you. I mean, there's really no thought process to it, right? He's not even telling what he wants. It's again, it's to show the power and the cruelty, that this administration is going to do anything that they said they were going to do, and that's the thing too. It's promises kept. This idea, except for the main thing that people voted for, which was prices.
right, right. He said we can't. I mean, and
because he can't do anything about it, and he never had a plan. He never has had a plan. And going back to the other thing you were saying too, the fuel to this, to the fire in the belly of the Republican Party, really did come from the Affordable Care Act, right? Because that was something that they pushed for so long, and the Republicans had fought it for so long, and I think they thought there was no way it was ever going to get passed. They were never going to, get all these people covered. God forbid. And I agree with you. I think it's maybe the single most important piece of legislation in the last 50 years. And but they'll never forgive him. They've never forgiven for that, right? That's become like the rally cry, right? Like so, which is just an insane principle to think that the idea of giving people health care who need it is this huge offense.
Too much.
Yeah.
well, so the Affordable Care Act enables people to tell their large employers that are teaching. There's people that work for large employers simply because the only way they could get insurance was through a group plan. So
Yeah.
that eliminated that edge those large employers had, which is essentially why you have inflation because wages went up. Wages are a direct result. Inflation is a direct result of wages. When people used to say, I used to say to people, and it's the wrong way to put it, but people used to say, in this economy, be glad you have a job. And I used to say, would you ever tell an abused housewife and be glad you have a husband? I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, it's just so now you no longer have that weight on your shoulder. You could be a guy that works for AT&T and feels like I'm being crapped on daily. I've been passed over from every promotion for every crazy reason in the world, but I'm stuck here sitting at my desk. I have diabetes from eating all these snacks all day sitting at my desk, but now I can leave this crappy employer and get health insurance. And yeah, maybe I'll never make the same money, but I'll have peace in my life. I won't be riddled with pain knowing somebody else that didn't qualify got the job I should have got.
Yeah.
So you've got that freedom now with the Affordable Care Act. That happened to me. I did 10 years overnights for a hotel chain simply because I have a condition, glaucoma. My son had a terrible lung from being a baby when he was a baby. He had pneumonia, and we had to have insurance. So I had to have this job. And it didn't really pay that well, so I'd work overnight and then fund my life with my part-time job during the day. So essentially I was working around the clock to have insurance. Because if I just would have worked my part-time job more, I would have made more money than the two together, but I had to have insurance.
Mhm.
And so when I realized I've had enough, and the company realized they had enough of me too, I was able to just walk out the door and get insurance. I went on the Affordable Care Act, and it was great coverage. I paid for it. It
Yeah. Well,
wasn't free.
the other reason it's this unforgivable act from the other side is also because you can't take it away, right? People won't stand for that. So it's like once you
No.
give them, they can't work the way around it. That's why Trump, made such a mess of it during his first time around. Always saying he had some plan. He had no plan, had no alternative, and he knew he couldn't just yank it away from people because they liked it, they needed it. And once you give people what they need and they get used to it for a little bit, you can't just yank that away from them. To the
No.
consternation of a lot of small-minded, non-empathetic people.
Right. There was people that said, "Oh, I lost my insurance. I lost." You lose your insurance, you lose your doctor when you move from one employer to another. It happens.
Right.
You go to a new plan with a new employer, and sometimes the doctor you love doesn't accept that plan. It happens. This is nothing new. And then they say, "Well, Obama said you won't lose your doctor, you won't lose your insurance." Well, how many things did Trump say that he can't possibly deliver on? I mean, you keep quoting that one thing he said. How many things? The other day, and it's a funny thing because I was talking to Beth, and I had called I call Greenland Finland, and I'm like, I know I'm going to pay dearly for this. But the guy who literally comes out of a meeting, the president of the United States, who comes out of the meeting with the governor of the Virgin Islands and says, I just met with the president of the Virgin Islands. And they're like, you're the president, Mr. President. You just met with the governor of the Virgin Islands. But it's okay. He's new at the business. He didn't know. He did. And the guy who in a Fox interview, a friendly ground interview, didn't know the difference between the Cuds and the Kurds. And it's like, and he argued with the interviewer that this is a gotcha question, and it's like the Kurds are our allies in Turkey. The Cuds are Iran's elite force that sponsors terrorism all over the world. How do you not know that one little difference? And you're arguing with the interviewer that this is a gotcha question. You're trying to make me look stupid. No, you look stupid routinely. You just look more stupid right now. But it's okay. He's new in the business. He's going to be our commander in chief. He's gonna have his experiences, and he's going to learn from it. He's going to grow with the job. Well, when he fucks something really up really bad and we wind up with a nuclear bomb in the middle of our front yard, let's say it's okay. He's new at the business. He didn't realize those were our enemies, not our friends. And he gets this reverement, this endearment, the adulation he gets from people just makes me sick. It's like if I went to work for a car dealership, and I was I was a salesman amongst 10. And we hire a new guy, and we listen to the new guy pitching a car to a new customer. And he says, this car flies over traffic. It gets 1,000,000 miles to the gallon. Would anybody say it's okay? He's new in the business. Or would we all laugh our ass off and ask the sales manager to walk him off the lot right now? I mean, I just don't get it. How he gets these. I don't get it. It's just.
Well, I don't think people like you and I and will understand why he's able to get away with that. And I have tried my best, asked Trump supporters, why don't you hold him to account? They really have no reason, but they don't want to look foolish either. So there's never going to be an admitted, and I feel like those people that do vote for him, it's because they maybe kind of see some of them of his attributes in themselves, like
absolutely. I think that's a big aspect of it, Beth, is that they do see parts of themselves that prior to this MAGA movement they felt they had to hide, and now and these are typically the worst characteristics of the person, and he has given them the ability to express those things, and it's like a drug to them. This grievance motivation, it hits all people, right? And it goes across all types of socioeconomic lines, right? Everyone
grievance politics.
Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of people who don't even realize that's what the hook is for them. They don't know why they like him so much, and because it's so hard to understand, because he's not charismatic. He doesn't have anything that would lead you to believe that he would be a popular political figure. Yet he is. I mean, you can't escape that.
No, he's huge.
Yeah,
he's bigly.
Yeah, not just
won the popular vote. That's millions and millions of people. That's at least half this. Close to half this country.
Yeah. And it's just insane. But I always said that I blame that on Biden. We would have never lost this election if Biden did what he said. He says, I'm in this to pass the torch. Pass the torch. Don't run for re-election. Let there be a shootout for the nomination. I don't think if there was a shootout for the nomination, I don't think Kamala Harris, and I do like her, but I don't think she would have been the nominee. Like you said, it would have been, I thought for sure it would have been Josh Shapiro. And Josh Shapiro would have wiped the floor with Donald Trump on every front. And
I mean, you like to believe that. I mean, look at the debate though. She did wipe the floor with him.
Yeah.
Like any reasonable person would watch that and go, "This guy is a freaking idiot," and this woman just owned him in that thing, and it didn't move the needle at all.
Yeah, that's true. That is concerning.
I mean, the only way I think the Democrats could have won this election is you would need someone far outside the party, like not someone who's going to follow. You need a Bernie Sanders type, really. Someone who is completely different in relation to the present, administration, because across the world, whoever was in power was getting moved, or their concept was getting moved, and so you needed something. You had to be a change agent. That's what the people were looking for. It had to be something different. And so if it was going to be a Democrat, it needed to be someone very far outside of the, the current Biden world of politics. And I think that was the thing that she just couldn't escape. And she didn't really help herself by things like the comment she made on The View, where she,
Right.
so afraid to insult Joe Biden in the previous administration. Well, it's like, well, you need to, because for right or wrong, it was very unpopular at that point.
Well, to your point, to say if we really had a chance to win, we needed somebody so far outside the party that we really just had to be so far outside the party. When in fact we nominated somebody that was so inside that it was an issue. It was like, and like you said in that interview, being one piece of the puzzle, I'm not going to do anything different. Well, we're all saying some things need to change. Well, even I'm saying, so I liked what Biden did as a president. I talk about things that are important to me. The burn bill, where after 50, 60 years of dithering about people that have suffered from Agent Orange are now getting treated, are now getting told you no longer have to meet this enormous threshold of proof. You can say you're in Vietnam at this time and you will get what you need as far as treatment.
Listen, policy-wise, he was a huge success. Huge. I don't think you can argue that, and that's the thing. People only see what's right in front of them, right? And so they see the cost of living. And it certainly has been affected by COVID and damage to the supply chain, things like that just couldn't be avoided. But I mean, you're seeing the fruits of it now. Like, the recovery is still happening. We just saw that latest jobs report. I mean, it's still a strong economy. That is all Biden's.
Right.
But Trump, of course, he'll take credit for it, as he always does on anything, just as quickly as he pushes blame on anything that is the fault of his administration. So, I think it'll be seen as a success by any rational person. His 4 years,
Yeah, I think it was great. He knew how to navigate the Senate, and that's the biggest part of the president's job. He knew exactly.
He got infrastructure done.
Infrastructure, 2 bills.
People forget how big of a deal that was. And then that CHIPS Act, another huge
CHIPS and Science Act, which is actually, like you said, going to show up on Trump's watch. I mean, those high-paying jobs, you got the legislation, you got the tax deductions to do the projects, you've got to facilitate the projects now, and those projects will be facilitated on Trump's watch, and those new hires will be brought on by Trump's watch. Just like
those senators who vote against a bill, and then when the products of that bill come, they go to their constituents and they take credit for it. It's like, you voted against this shit.
Well, nobody knows voting records. Nobody knows voting records.
Well, again, because most people, like I said, we are a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of this country, right? Most people do not pay attention. Aren't interested, and where they do get their information is some of the worst sources, and it's only going to get worse in that respect, right? This whole thing they're doing now, getting rid of the legacy media, and they want more influencers and podcast people to be in the press room. I mean,
well, that's great for us, because I want to be one of them podcast people.
I want
us to be. I want us to be.
Well,
I also want to. Huh?
Next question, Trippy.
Yeah.
Hopefully they call me Coach Trippy. I'm a political coach. I want them to call it Coach Trippy. I love that name, Trippy. It's just. I thought I hated it at first, and then I loved it.
Does everyone call you Trippy?
Pretty much. Okay. It was where it all started, because everybody assumes it's, and I'm digressing now because we've just covered a lot and we've done a great job at that. But it all started, everybody thinks it's drug use. So let me preface, it's not. So I was working for a top 40 nightclub. They asked me to book some bands. There was this band, Joe Trippy and the Fantasy. He was literally the worst of them all. But I love the guy. I just love the guy. He talked bullshit stories. He opened for Frank Sinatra. I know he never opened for Frank Sinatra. I know he never even was able to buy tickets to see Frank Sinatra. But and then, so every time I talk to him, people go, "Oh, I see that's your brothers here, Joe Trippy." And the funny thing about Joe Trippy was they let me start booking the bands. You had to pay an agent's fee to book Joe Trippy, whereas anyone else, you could just, back then you didn't have internets and apps. You just call him, "Hey, Tim from Paradise, can you come play this weekend?" Joe Trippy, you had to pay an agent, and that used to freak the owner out when he heard Joe Trippy. How much should we pay the agent this time for a band we don't even like? And I would just, it was my job, and I got away with it. So they said, so I made the joke, just start calling me Trippy. And he made an announcement on the stage that I was such a big fan, I wanted to rename myself and my children all Trippy. And I never said that. I made a joke. And it's just from then on. So then the club went out of business like they all do. And I went on to work for Gators Dockside. Well, Doug, the bartender, was already working there. He called me and said, "We need another bartender." I walk in the door to do an interview, and Doug says, "Trippy." And Jay, the manager, says, "What did he call you?" I said, No, he's just joking. He goes, "Trippy, how you doing?" He goes, "Did he call you Trippy? I'm going to hire you, and I'm going to put you in the system already." And he put the name Trippy in the system. And I said, "Oh, this is never going away now." And 27 stores later and 23 years later, it's been Trippy. And I'm like, you know what? I love it now. I've never been a nickname guy, but I love it. I remember all my friends had nicknames. Like Richard was Strem, and I'd always call him Richard. But my life was always, I worked in a appliance store. I was always had a nickname. And there was a big guy, Jeff. He was the best salesman. So they would call me Junior. So I was Junior there. Then I became Trippy when I got older. But I was like, you know what? I love Trippy now. So when I'm in the press corps as an influencer, I want to be called Trippy.
I honestly, like, if you had asked me what your real name was prior to like your last email, I have no idea. I mean, like, I'm sure I knew at some point. I'm sure I've said it at some point, but I don't remember it anything other than being Trippy.
So her husband, Mike, came on Gators. He was a total Gators enthusiast, sitting with Sandra, the director of operations. They're going through employee files. He wants to get all the. He goes, "Who the hell is Jeff Rabinowitz?" And she goes, "That's Trippy." And they were both falling over in the office laughing. He was going through every employee file, and that was their first. That was the first time he ever knew I was Trippy. And then I think it was him or another manager put on because that store had a sign, and they put on the sign, "Come meet Jeff Rabinowitz," and customers were coming in. Who's Jeff Rabinowitz? That was this. That was the funniest thing on Red Bug Lake Road. There was a sign out there for like 2 weeks. "Come meet Jeff Rabinowitz."
Also,
Nobody really.
I remember that story. I remember that sign. The sign.
"Come meet Jeff Rabinowitz." That was kind of fun. Nobody knew who the hell Trippy was until now. Until I become a White House correspondent influencer, the chief of influencers. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be bigly.
Yeah, you can do it.
I think I'm in the process. No telling if I'll live long enough to make it happen.
It's just an eye, Trippy.
Huh?
It's just an eye.
Two eyes in Trippy, two P's, two eyes.
TRIPPI.
His literal eye. He said, "If I live long enough," like he just. It's just
Oh
an eye.
yeah. No, it's fine. It's coming back. Allegedly, it's coming back. I think so.
What's that?
My left eye kind of got
Oh,
worse because it ate up my. I have a drain in my eye for the glaucoma, and the drain ate up my cornea after 10 years. So I got a cornea replacement. It takes time to adjust.
no shit.
So I'm a.
Whose cornea did you get?
So my friend told me it's probably a serial killer's, but it's not. He was 48 years old, and Jeffrey Dahmer was old for a serial killer, and he was 32.
Wait, so you really got a donated
Yeah.
piece of your eye?
Yeah, I'm a transplantee now.
But you don't know. You don't know anything about the person.
He was 48 years old. He was male, and he died in a car crash. That's all I know.
Oh, that's a bummer.
It was nice. He
So yeah, that's just one piece of him. So I guess when you do that donor selection thing, like on your fail,
They take
you
everything.
could go all over the place.
Mhm.
I could be everywhere. Interesting. Yeah.
It's true. It's just an eye.
Wow. When did you have that done?
It's a year, been almost a year now. Less than a year, a little less. But I've been fooling with this for years, 10, 12 years already.
Oh,
I
yeah.
go to the eye doctor I have 4 eye doctors.
Are you
It's
sure?
crazy.
You
Yeah.
can see in double.
My premier eye doctor, in some foreign cultures we'd be married. I've seen her so often over the years. I mean,
I have a dog with no eyes. He had glaucoma.
he did.
No
Ray
eyeballs, or
Yeah,
just
no eyeballs.
Ray
Really?
Charles, that's how he went blind.
wait,
Because
wait,
his mom,
wait. I want to go back to this, Beth. You had a dog with just like sockets, like there's
I
no
have a
ball.
dog. No, I have a dog now. His name, well, it was my daughter's dog, and then when he got sick, he has an immune deficiencies, immune suppressed. Anyways, and it affects his eyes. The pigment in his body attacks his eyes. He had one blue. It's a husky. One brown. The brown went first, and he got glaucoma. But there's no, we tried the drops and the prednisone. There's no treatment for it. So, in order to get him out of the pain, because apparently it's incredibly painful.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they actually remove the organ and remove the
They
eye.
literally removed his eye. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then shortly after the other eye went, and I was really, thinking, oh, I really don't want to,
So
take out.
he's still alive.
Oh, he's great. He's awesome. Here he is. Let's see if you can see.
Oh,
Oh,
he's
I was
adorable.
gonna say, I don't know how you share a picture
Right,
on.
pull it up there. I can see it.
Yeah, we
Oh,
were seeing it.
Yeah, see what you're doing.
can you see that?
He's
Yeah, I
adorable.
can't tell he doesn't have eyeballs.
No, I can't even tell.
Yeah, well, he's a husky, so you just see it just
Yeah,
looks
that's
like concave. Yeah, I think I have it up here, and then I'll share my screen with you. Uh, if I know how to. How do I do that?
Share the screen.
Yeah.
I saw it done. I don't know how you do it.
Oh, I have it. Okay. Let's see. Oh, well, it's not doing it. All right. Well, anyway, uh, can
He
you
was
still
adorable.
he's awesome, and he did so well
how old
uh
is he?
adjusting. Yeah, he did really well adjusting to not having.
How old is the dog?
He lost the first one.
No, no. How old is he?
Oh, he's 4 this year.
Yeah, he
Oh,
looks like a
so
baby.
he's young.
He was diagnosed with EPI. There's really a strong suspicion that he is inbred, possibly.
They do that a lot. They do that a lot with dogs for looks, right? That's kind of how they destroyed the golden retriever. The golden retrievers used to be field dogs, not the most attractive breed, but they're really, really smart dogs, and they kept inbreeding them for looks to get that like the darker coat and the fuller face and everything. And that's why a lot of the current golden retrievers aren't nearly as intelligent as their predecessors.
And British royalty is inbred usually too.
But yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So he can be British royalty.
Perhaps.
Yeah, okay. Let me share my screen. Let me see if I don't know how you do this. I should really just get used to it. Um, oh, okay. I can do it. Let's see.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, there he is. Do you see him?
No, not yet.
Yeah. What about now?
There he
Oh, no, I
is.
see it. Yeah.
Now you got to click the allow or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
There you go.
So his like eyes are closed. Really.
Oh,
He's
yeah. That's it.
adorable.
Other than the fact that he's got just a little bit of a sock, indent.
Does he get around okay? Like,
Well, yeah, now, it's around the house. You just can't move the furniture or anything, but he's done really, really well. I'm
Yeah, you just got. He's used to it.
Their whole world is really pretty much defined by their nose anyway. So that's like that's their main thing.
exactly. When I take him for a walk, he even knows to walk around a car. If a car parked on the street, he knows to walk around. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. Like whenever I'm walking my dog, I just kind of take notice of that, how she experiences her world almost completely through smell. That's like the dominant thing. It's interesting.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
She's beautiful.
I love my dogs. It's about the
She's
best.
Adorable.
So glad I got to share.
I'm glad you got to share. Mia was gonna come in, but I told her no. My baby.
Yeah, I can't bring him to Florida. I brought him here one time, and he won't get back in the car now.
Oh, that's a long trip. Yeah, Mia would get in the car for 10 hours. She'd get in the car for 10 days. She loves the car. I need to spend more time with her in the car.
Yeah, we have three dogs.
So what do you think, guys? You want to call this a wrap?
Sure.
You want to do it again?
Absolutely. Anytime.
This was awesome.
We'll always have, guaranteed to have more material.
Oh my God, 4 years worth.
Never ending.
4 years worth.
Not even 2 weeks yet.
And if I'm staying in a hotel in Washington D.C. because I have meetings in the press room, I'll get on here and do
Yeah,
that
it's
too.
on there when they
It'll
take
be
the next question
awesome.
from Coach Trippy.
It's just every time you say that, I want you to say it 10 more times before we wrap it up.
Next question, Coach Trippy.
Could you imagine Donald Trump? That's a stupid question. It's a stupid question.
Yeah, that's not a
What is
very
it? You're
nice
a
question.
nasty person. You're a nasty, nasty person. No, I just want to know why you're such a dickhead. I mean, you got everything handed to you your whole life. I mean, the only reason you've ever even had a date is because you have money. Why are you such a dick? That's a nasty, nasty question.
Probably the best question.
Cover
What
that in.
made what made you
What
so
made you
angry?
such a dickhead? Yeah.
I always remember when I was a kid, this guy owned a General Rental, and he was giving me stock advice, and because I would buff and wax his floors, he paid me $300 cash. He goes, "You should invest that 300 because I know you're gonna go out and party there, buddy." I was Jeff back then, and he said you should invest that in Home Depot stock. His name was Richard, but his nickname was Dick, and I'm like, I kept thinking, how did his parents know him so well to call him Dick before he was even born?
No,
And
he's going to be.
I couldn't take his advice. I just couldn't listen to anything he said. His voice made me cringe. I
Does
would
anyone
start.
go by? No one goes by Dick anymore, do they?
No, I don't think so. No, no. Well, that would be gender revealing or something. I don't know. And I wish I would have just put that feeling aside that he's just too arrogant to take any advice from. I probably would have had 100 shares of Home Depot stock worth who knows
Yeah.
what today.
Real quick, did you guys have heard that one of the executive orders was getting rid of like a MLK Day and
Yeah, I heard that.
Oh
that's
no,
true?
no, I've
I heard
missed
that
that.
yesterday because it's a federal holiday. Now federal
Yeah,
workers won't be off that day.
yeah,
Oh,
they
they
get
did that through executive order, so that's no
I
longer
don't no
effective.
one knows if any of these elected executive orders will stand the test of
No, but
judicial.
I'm saying I didn't even hear that. So that was
a
one of
lot of
the.
the things
I heard it.
a lot of the things are sort of hidden in like with the trans executive order, he actually changed the wording to that a fetus has personhood, like that conception starts at or that life starts at conception, which would sort of put a ban, make it a national ban.
Mhm.
Um, a fetus would have personhood, and if you lost a pregnancy for whatever reason, they could investigate into that and possibly. I mean, it was a big thing with Mike Johnson bringing that out to or pointing that out. So I didn't know if you guys had heard that or.
I heard it. I also heard somebody over litigating or overthinking that particular part of the order where life begins at conception, and they were saying that everybody's at conception is a woman, is a female. That's
Yeah,
there
section.
was some theoretical point of view that means now everybody's a female. I don't know. All I know is none of this. I believe in his first presidency, his first term, his executive orders didn't do very well. I think one remained intact was the travel ban, and the other that remained intact was moving some of the military's money to building the wall. That was two executive orders that stayed intact, but for the most part, they all got shot down in his first term.
I'm talking
Travel,
about this term.
huh?
I'm talking about this term.
Yeah, no, in his first term, those
Oh,
two, but his executive order track record, what I'm landing on is really bad
oh,
far
you're
as
Oh,
as far as judicial challenges.
yeah,
right.
Double ACP or whoever has the money to challenge him does really well with him.
yeah. Well, like the birthright citizenship thing was that it's scathing
Well, I mean, and
by
I
that
don't understand.
Reagan-appointed federal judge. It was just like I don't know how anyone with a bar license would ever even consider this to be constitutional.
Well, first it would have to be an amendment to the Constitution, and second, what is his issue with birthright? I mean, his whole life revolves around his financial birthright. His wife was, uh,
Well, no, what they were trying to get around the having to amend it or remove the amendment was the language, and they're trying to say that something has to do with I forgot. They go to the exact wording in the amendment about it's really just a silly legal argument. Didn't really make it,
right.
especially when it ultimately went up at the Supreme Court that are all like it's dominated by originalists. So like they would have to go against everything they stand for as judges to take a reverse position on that. I mean, it's just stupid. But again, that's the purpose of it. It's just it's a flex, like most.
Well, Gorsuch's not only an originalist, he's a scripturalist.
Right,
so the way it's written by the letter would be.
It's very clearly. There's no question. Like it's doing like linguistic gymnastics to try to come around this thing and say that there's a way to interpret it as that not being exactly what it is, which is And I'm not saying it's a perfect idea. I mean, it is abused. There's no doubt about it. Right? It is abused. People do purposely like have children in this country for the sole purpose of them becoming citizens.
But my thing is when we use the word abuse, is every aspect of every law is abused. Like so, every tax code is abused to the benefit of the rich. So, recently the Supreme Court said states can rule on abortion. However, they didn't overturn Roe versus Wade. We all froze.
We didn't all froze. You froze, Trippy.
I froze.
Me and Beth were still carrying it on there.
Well, that's good. This has been a great time. I love this.
Yeah, we should definitely do it again.
Let's do it again, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, well, thank you, everybody. Let's be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment. This will all be up. I'll text you guys. Charlie, if you like, can you message me your phone number so I can text you as well? And then because I got Beth on both, and I'd like to have you on both.
Will do.
That's great, guys. It's great seeing you guys. This is new technology. Well, not really, but I'm old. So but I'm fine. I'm doing great.
All right, let's do it again, man.
Let's do it again, guys.
We get our best heard. All right. Yeah, it was good to see you, Charlie.
You can see you back.
Great seeing you guys.
Say hi to Mike for me.
I'm gonna reach out to more of our classmates,
Gator
mates. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.